The title of this video is Getting Started. Immediately after installing QPlayer, you will get an icon on your screen. Here I'm using the program Fences to keep everything organized, but we can double click on our newly created icon and we'll see that the screen comes up. And the first thing that we have to do is decide and set up the output amplifier or output that we're going to be using. QPlayer can output cues and sounds to any of the attached devices to your computer, so there can be several, and there's no way to know ahead of time which ones you want to use. So the program first asks you to select one. It asks you twice just in case. So we go up here to Options and Set Defaults as instructed in that pop-up. And here the default screen shows up. We can select a default, a cue type of sound. Could be a sound or a video if you purchase QPlayer Premium Plus. We will select sound. We will have a default of advance at the end of the cue. And here's where we're really wanting to go, which is the cue device. We click on here, we'll get a drop-down menu of all the devices that you have attached to your computer. In this case, we're going to use the speakers, the high definition audio that is built into the motherboard on this particular computer. We can set the cues to that, and that will change all the cues that are in the cue list in the sample file that comes up. Save that. Now here we have the first thing that you see then is the sample cue file that is automatically selected for you. If you don't want that as time goes on to have the last used cue list come up, you can uncheck this box down here for auto open cue file, and the program will open with a blank screen, and you can select your cue file. In this case, we don't want to be redundant with there is a video already on the web page that describes all of these cues and shows you the editing and all the selections that can be done with those cues. For this situation here, what we want to do, because you're just getting started, you may want to do a new cue file. So rather than deleting all of these cues, we can go here to File and select New Cue File. It will ask if we want to select or create a new directory for this cue file. In this case, we'll just say no, and a file selection screen will pop up. We'll make a new one. We'll call this one New One. All right, we will save that. And we need to add then the first cue for the New One cue file. Here we'll see up here we're using new1.q registered to our theater or ourselves, depending on how you purchase the program. The first thing that comes then is in adding a new cue, you can have a cue call, which would normally be start with S for, say, sound cues, V for V cues, but it could be abracadabra or whatever you want to call that cue for your stage manager to call out to the sound person. Our cue description would then be, this is going to be the, say, first cue, and maybe it's a doorbell or something like that. All right, it is a sound file as we've selected before. We can choose a text color. The default is cream, but we can go here and select any of the cue colors that you may have noticed in the sample cue file. It can have various colors, but we'll just go with the default here, and we're going to select a sound. In this case, we're going to do a doorbell, so maybe we did ring for our doorbell. We'll click the open button. We'll see that the file path and name of the file appears in here, and now we can choose the rest of the editing functions that we described in the other video. quickly. Normally, you might have the play key as the trigger. The fade time is the fade. Let's make this cue say fade in, so it's going to start at 0, and it's going to fade in over 3 seconds to its maximum volume. We're not going to change the start or stop. We can select the speakers that it comes out of. Remember, we selected the speakers, the high definition audio. In this case, it's strictly a stereo output, so you only have a choice of front or all, which is really the same thing. But it shows you the number of speakers that were available. If you had a 5.1 or a 7.1 sound card, then these other options would be viable for you. Our action of a sound file is to play, and we're normally going to advance it end, and we save that. So now we have our doorbell. We can play it, and we're done. Hopefully this will get you started in creating a cue file. After this first cue, you can add cues. A blank screen will come up. You can replicate, redo the cues again, and you'll be on your way to creating a very smooth show. Thank you for watching.